Hey guys, and welcome to or back to the Pause in Pursuit podcast with your host, Summer Clark. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy Wednesday evening or whenever you are listening to this week's episode. Today is going to be a highly requested episode as of lately. I have done Crufts prep episodes in previous years, I believe. However, a year is a long time. We need an updated one, because my views have changed, etc., expectations, everything changes, doesn't it? So today, with T-7 days until Crufts, when I'm recording this, I'm going to give you my last minute Crufts prep tips. So what should you be doing? And by should you be doing, I mean, what do I recommend doing because they work for me? You should be doing whatever works for you, but this is what works for me. And if someone were to ask me for advice, I would say this because it works for me. But disclaimer, might not work for you. But anyway, so in this episode, I will give you those tips and tell you how to make this final week before Crufts count, because there's a lot you can do in a week, not necessarily a lot as in volume, but in efficiency, in ways that you probably may not have even thought about, in ways that aren't necessarily just plugging agility training, if that makes sense. So, quick weekly recap then. So, lots of work as usual. You guys know how that is. Super busy at the moment. No complaints. Very grateful. But apart from that, I judged another Inspire. And tell you what, guys, it was the loveliest day, surrounded by the nicest people. Like, after such an upsetting experience at the start of the month, at that judging appointment at the start of Feb, if you guys haven't heard about that, I did an episode a couple of weeks ago named A Message to the Haters. So if you're interested, go and have a listen to that, because it will explain why it was so upsetting. But Sunday was the total opposite of that day and reminded me why I stand in the middle of that ring. Because honestly, I've never been so close to, one, just walking out of a judging appointment at the start of Feb, and two, just not judging again. But I'm not like that, that's not who I am, kind of thing. I do come back, I do give things another go. I kind of, I have a bit of a day and then that thick skin kind of forms again. And I'm like, you know what? No, absolutely not. I'm coming back, I'm winning this, etc. So, and this is why, because I knew that the next one wouldn't be that bad. And it was really nice. It was such a good day. And I'm super happy with how my courses ran. They all went down exactly as planned. My ring party was lovely, and the overwhelming amount of competitors who took the time to thank me for my courses throughout the day was unbelievable and just so lovely. Like, if you really like a course, do make an effort to just let the judge know. Passing comment, it does mean the world, because at the end of the day, we are standing out there all day, potentially 8 hours on our feet, especially for me with my stress fracture in my foot last year. Like, that's still not been that long, do you get what I mean? And it still does ache, but I'm doing it, and I'm sitting at home and I'm designing my courses in my own time, and we all are, us judges. So yeah, take the time to do that. It really does mean the world. But yeah, that was a super nice day and has made me really excited again for judging and future appointments. I do have a few lined up, which is super exciting. The next one is the end of March, Inspire again. So if you're there, I know a lot of you do go to Inspire. And for those of you that have messaged me and, said thank you for your courses and chatted about your run and stuff like that on my courses, thank you. I appreciate that. And I'll see you at the end of the month, hopefully. And then what else have I done? Ogilvy Hire, our last Ogilvy Hire session was last night. I'm recording this on Tuesday, so yeah. And we had our final Monday night Ogilvy session before Crufts and the second weekend of GB tryouts. So obviously we've been hiring Ogilvy to train for both weekends of GB tryouts and obviously Crufts. And they're upon us, guys. The next couple of weeks are going to be crazy, to say the least. Obviously Crufts is literally in a week. And then the next weekend, the following weekend, is the second weekend of GB tryouts. This time of year is always insane, but super exciting at the same time. So that is pretty much what I've been up to. Nothing particularly exciting apart from that, the usual training arrow, training other people, stuff like that. So without further ado, shall we get into my last minute Crufts prep tips? So tip number 1 is don't waste your time training what you're already really good at, okay? So with a week to go, you want to use this week to train your weaknesses to make sure you go into Crufts with confidence in your skills. So if you know that you've got things that you really need to work on, if you haven't worked on them at all yet, you're not going to fix the issue in a week, but at least doing some work on those things and even making like the tiniest 1% improvement will increase your confidence going into Crufts even slightly. And every percent like every little tiny improvement in not only your skills, but your confidence in your skills, or at least your ability to say to yourself on the day, yep, I've done what I can. I've done everything I can. It matters. Like, it really does make a huge difference and compounds. So use this last week to train things you actually need to train, not just going over what you can already do because it feels good. I'm huge on this, and I've spoken about this lots before on social media and in previous podcast episodes, but don't waste time just repping what you can already do. Train the things you know you need to work on. Don't expect to fully fix it in a week, obviously, but every little counts. I think that is a big one. But also, obviously, so that brings me into the second point. I was about to go on to it naturally. Number 2, don't overdo it. So don't cram your training, as this increases the risk of injury for both you and your dog. So you know how in school, if you had like an exam the next day or something, and you hadn't done as much revision as you think you should have done, and you're feeling a bit stressed out and, I should probably try and know all the content right now because I need it for tomorrow, that it doesn't really work, or at least it didn't work for me. To be honest, I never really crammed because I've just, we won't even get into that. I'm just not the most academic of people, hated studying. Anyway, don't cram your training because mainly there's more likelihood of you or your dog getting injured, which we don't want in the last week for Crufts, okay? We don't want that. So instead of doing an excessive amount of course running, for example, because you might think, oh God, I need to run all these courses to make sure I can run the course at Crufts, instead of that, which I'm not saying don't do course running, I'm just saying don't do it like excessively every day. Instead of that, focus on refining your dog's skills, like I said in point 1. So skills are mainly like little bits, so things you can do in the garden and do it in like 5 or 10 minute sessions at a time, again to reduce the likelihood of injury at this point, so close to Crufts. One jump skills, one piece of equipment skill, just weave entries and exits, seesaws, just contacts, do you get what I mean? Just things on their own. And then do your normal amount of course running. So maybe have 1 or 2 course running sessions in the week, depending what you normally do. But don't amp it up too much, okay? Focus on the little skills. Don't hammer course running. And equally, don't hammer skills either. Don't spend hours and hours when you normally wouldn't, or full stop, to be honest, because you just don't want an injury at this point. You need to be bubble wrapping yourself and your dog, if anything, at this point. I personally don't change anything. I just do what I normally do because that works for me and Arrow. But if you do feel the need to do a bit extra of a certain thing, try and do little and often, if that makes sense, and focus on skills instead of just hammering your dog over a course constantly in a panic. Okay, so don't cram. So number 3 then is when you do have a course running session or 2, depending again what you normally do, practice running tight courses and train on Astro if you can. If you're in the YKC ring, you want to be practicing running tight courses because the courses are tight. And obviously Crufts, any agility at Crufts, main arena or YKC is on Astro. So if you can get even just one training session, one course running session on Astro would be fab. Again, let's not say Tuesday, Wednesday because it's on Thursday, but it obviously depends when you're running. Don't do it the day before, probably. Or I personally wouldn't. But if you are going to do a course running session in these last 7 days, then try and do it on a tight course, and also try doing it on Astro if you can hire somewhere. So DSD, Ogilvy, stuff like that. I know there's a few more now. I can't remember the name, but there's, I think, 2 more new-ish ones that I've kind of more recently heard of and seen people running at, which is exciting. We do need more Astro venues here in the UK. So number 4 is, oh my God, that was awful. Number 4, don't try anything new or try to start fixing a problem that you haven't started trying to fix yet, as there simply isn't enough time to achieve anything worthwhile in a week, okay? So realistically, nothing massive is going to happen in a week, so don't set that as your expectation. Like I said, if you are going to be trying to work on a weakness, don't expect it to be fixed. But if you haven't already started fixing a problem, it's not really worth trying to start, because you are very likely to get hyperfixated on this problem and end up cramming, like I said before. And don't try anything new. There's just no point. If you want to do something new, introduce it after Crufts with the long-term goal of, I'm going to start putting this in place and try it out for KCI, or something where you have a decent amount of time to trial it, see if it works for you, tweak it, master it, and then use it in competition, if that makes sense. So just stick to what you already know, as this will avoid confusing yourself or your dog. Like, don't try and change a cue or anything like that. Just don't sort of say you reward your dog with the exact same thing every single run. They know you have it on you. You do their warm-up routine, same thing. Pre-run routine, keep that the same. You know, if you want to add something or take something away or change your pre-run routine, do that after Crufts at a normal show and see how it works. Don't do it at Crufts, because what if it doesn't work? It's too late. Do you know what I mean? So do what you already know works. Just do it. And don't give yourself more to think about than you already need to, basically, because there's a lot to think about with Crufts. So number 5, plan your day at Crufts and start packing now. So get all the prep done that you can in advance. So create a schedule for yourself, complete with timings, to ensure you know exactly what you're doing on the day, and start packing what you need to ensure you don't forget anything on the day, because there's nothing worse than either rushing because you haven't sorted your timings out and not left yourself enough time to travel, walk from the car park to the actual hall, because it takes bloody forever. And it's awful when you realise you forgot something and you're already there. And then you have to rush around asking other people if they got it, or you need to do without it. And you just don't need the extra stress. Like, making sure you're all sorted in these ways will eliminate any unnecessary stress and the need to rush, because it's just not something, again, is it? It's just not something that you want on that day, or any day really, but especially at Crufts, you know, especially if it's your first time at Crufts, you don't know what to expect, or you're particularly nervous this year for whatever reason, you just don't want to add to that at all, really. So number 6 is watch videos of competitors running at Crufts in previous years. Okay, so you might not think to do this, but this will give you a feel for the environment, atmosphere and noise levels, and help you go into the event with clearer expectations. So if this is your first time at Crufts, this is a great thing to do. And I used to do this all the time when I was more new to the sport and to different events. And at least then you're not going in completely blind. You know what it looks like, sounds like, kind of, you get a vibe from a video. I know it's not the same, but it does at least help a little bit. It's better than nothing. It's better than going in not even knowing what it's going to be laid out like, etc. And to be honest, yeah, even if you have been to Crufts before, it's always nice to maybe watch, or I'll watch my own videos back from last year, for example, just to get myself back into it's kind of a form of visualization in a way, but you're actually watching it, I guess. So I guess it's like half visualization. Visualization is another good thing to do. Again, if you've been to Crufts before, you can visualize it in your head, which kind of really helps me, because the mind is powerful, guys. You can really think yourself into things, and trick your mind. Well, not even trick, but sort of if you visualize something, your mind kind of doesn't even know the difference between what you visualized and if it's actually happened, which is crazy, I know. But yeah, so visualization is super helpful if you're into that kind of thing. But if not, then like I said, watching videos I'd do both. I'd watch videos first, then visualize it, especially if it's your first time competing. Number 7, and if you want more information and sort of an insight into visualization, I have an episode on the psychology of sport and agility with, hang on, let me go back and find it, because it was I'm not going to lie, you guys know that I'm really into psychology and especially, sports psychology. So let me just have a gander. I'm not going to be able to find it now, am I? Was it that long ago? Oh, here we go. The psychology behind competitive sport with Laura, and I can never say her last name, Kimley Gabby. I can't pronounce her last name. It was my episode from the 25th of September, 2024. So yeah, not that long ago. And it was an hour and a half, but it was so interesting. And I really do recommend you go back and listen to that if you haven't already. And even if you have, go back and give it a refresh. Like, listen to that before every big event that you're kind of getting in your head about. I would recommend. So tip number 7 is to outline realistic goals for yourself. Emphasis here on the realistic, okay? So going into the event with specific goals will give you a clearer sense of what you want to achieve out of it and foster a sense of achievement afterwards that will propel you towards improvement. So not only will it help you going into it, but it will also help you after it, if that makes sense. Because, yeah, it will foster a sense of achievement because you'll think, especially, it will only foster a sense of achievement if you make them realistic, okay? Because if you make them realistic and you achieve it, which you should do if they're realistic, then you're going to achieve that in your mind, and then you're going to have more confidence and motivation to keep training and to improve on that, to make bigger goals in the future, if that makes sense. So yeah, keep them realistic. For example, maintain my dog's focus throughout the run instead of win the class, especially if it's your first time. Or, for example, go clear if you've, say, had 5 faults in your Crufts runs over the past few years, for example. So kind of, you want something that is a goal for you in your situation, but not absolutely like a million steps ahead, if that makes sense. And this will really help, and it can be literally anything. You can set whatever goal you want. It can be as simple as you want, whatever works for you, whatever you think is achievable for you and your dog at your point in your journey. And remember, do not compare yourself to others. Do not compare your goals to those of others, because everyone is entirely different, and that doesn't help at all. Trust me, I've been stuck in that comparison trap before. Again, I've made an episode about comparison trap and imposter syndrome and stuff like that in the past. So go search those keywords in the podcast on Spotify or Apple if you want to, or YouTube if you want to listen to those. But yeah, set yourself those realistic goals before you go into the event. And to be honest, even if you don't achieve them right, you at least know those goals are still there. Those goals are still there for future years at Crufts or any other events you have coming up that you want to transfer them to. And just having them sat there, knowing you want to tick them off, will propel you, will motivate you to keep working towards improving. As well, sometimes with big events, some people can kind of prepare so long for a certain event, and then as soon as it's done, they kind of lose their motivation, they lose their why. Well, that's why you keep having to set goals and, refresh the goals, and, don't just think, oh, Crufts is the goal, and then Crufts is over and you're like, now what? Have a goal that's more, not event specific, more you and your dog specific, if that makes sense. And you can set it for Crufts because Crufts is the next event, but no real pressure to achieve it. You just want to achieve it eventually, and Crufts is just another way to do so. Obviously, you can set goals for certain events, but again, Crufts is every year, isn't it? So you have future years to achieve these goals. So don't let goals put pressure on you, but use them as fuel, if that makes sense. Fuel and clarity, I like to say. So number 8, and this is really important and something that, as you all know, I've learnt over the past 6 months or so, is prioritise rest and recovery. So in this last week, make sure both you and your dog are getting plenty of rest throughout the week. So this includes getting plenty of sleep, allowing yourself an adequate amount of downtime every day, and participate in activities that soothe your mind. So, for example, reading, anything like that. Watching watching a series, having a bath, anything like that. Give yourself that calm and that relaxation, rest and recovery, because it will be good for both your body and mind. Again, reduce the risk of injury, reduce the risk of burnout, and reduce the risk of you basically totally overwhelming yourself with anxiety over Crufts, because you're keeping your mind in that relaxed state, okay? So try not to overdo it when it comes to things like work or exercise, if you can. If you want to go into Crufts physically and mentally well. So basically just be gentle on yourself in this next week. Don't absolutely hammer it with life, because then you'll be exhausted and burnt out going into Crufts. You want to make sure that you're going into Crufts nicely rested, energized, in a good physical and mental state, basically. Number 9 is don't do absolutely nothing in fear of injury unless this is what works for you. So maybe doing nothing the week before does work for you. In that case, go for it. It personally doesn't work for me. Keep up your usual training and fitness routine if that works for you and if possible. So that's what I do. But obviously reduce the intensity if you see fit and be flexible. So like with me in the gym, for example, I won't be hitting legs on Wednesday, for example. Stuff like that. Like, be sensible around and work things around it. It's kind of common sense, isn't it? But yeah, don't do absolutely nothing just because you're worried about injury. I'm still going to be doing some bits with Arrow, and I'm still going to be going to the gym. But, feel free to do less. Do a little bit less. Maybe I'll be keeping sessions shorter, shorter bursts, maybe in the gym, lower weight, not pushing for PBs in the week of Crufts, maintaining, if that makes sense. So it's very personal, but kind of keep your mind open to that. And also, everyone's final week looks different, and that's absolutely fine. Just like everyone's prep period in general for months or however long looks different. No one's is going to be the same, because that would be weird. Everyone and every dog is totally different. So, of course, they're not all going to respond to the exact same type of prep and activities within prep, if that makes sense. So again, it goes back to that, not comparing yourself to others. So the final tip then, if this is your first time competing at Crufts, reach out to someone who has done it before and have a conversation. Agility people are generally lovely. The worst you'll get is them not responding, which in that case, you've literally lost nothing anyway. But yeah, if you know someone's competed before, I'm gonna yawn. Oh, sorry about that. That needed to come out. I'm laid down in bed. That's probably why this is happening. It is 2:30 p.m. and I've been up since 6:30, so I'm tired. Anyway, so reaching out to someone who's done it before and talking to them about it is the perfect way to gain reassurance and foster a sense of support and community. And that really helps, feeling part of it, feeling supported, and feeling like, you're not in it alone. There's other people who've done it before and had positive experiences and maybe have some more tips for you. And likewise, if this isn't your first time competing at Crufts, you can reach out to someone who will be there this year on the same day as you, for example, or in the same class. You can talk about how you're both preparing. Again, not to compare, just to have that friendly conversation of support, and arrange to meet up on the day even, again, for a bit of extra support. And also because agility isn't just about the competing, is it? It's about making friends, having a good time, and just, Crufts is super special. It's only once a year, just enjoy it, talk to people and just make sure you're having a good time. That is the main thing, I think, especially if it's your first year. Like, this is a huge experience year for you. Don't expect the world, and just enjoy it. But yeah, that is something that you may not have thought of, number 10, actually, and something that I didn't really think about. But really, talking to people really helps. Like, in any situation, if you're feeling a certain type of way about anything, talking to someone about it, especially someone who's in a similar or the same boat as you, goes a long way. It really does. So that is it from me this week, guys. Those are the 10 tips for this last week before Crufts. Again, I'll just reiterate my disclaimer of everyone is different. I'm not saying you have to do this. It's just what works for me and some potential things that you might want to give a go. But yeah, what am I up to in this next week before Crufts? Obviously, my last minute Crufts prep, training on Wednesdays, and I'll be doing some skills in the garden with Arrow, keeping up mine and his fitness at maintenance level, and working as usual. I'm not hiring Ogilvy on the 3rd because that's only 2 days before Crufts, and I'm just like, you know what? We've done lots. We've done enough. We've got 2 days at Crufts competing, so that in itself. And then for tryouts, I'm not doing it on the 10th either because I'm like, well, Crufts on the 6th and the 8th is prep in itself for tryouts in a way, if that makes sense. So, yeah, again, not overdoing it, making sure I don't do that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that I've got going on in this next week. Again, not doing anything crazy in the week before Crufts because I want a chill week, okay, guys? I want a chill week. But that is it from me. I hope you guys have an amazing final week before Crufts, and I will speak to you literally the night before the first day of Crufts next Wednesday, which is insane. This year is flying. Like, January dragged, and now that February's gone. What is happening? Where's February gone? Where? It's gone. Next time I speak to you will be half a week into March. What's occurring, guys? But anyway, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, please do leave it a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcasts and or Spotify. And send this episode to someone who you know is competing at Crufts next week if you think they would benefit from it. Please do also give the podcast a follow so you don't miss any future episodes, and keep sending me in your solo and guest topic ideas, who you want to see on the podcast as a guest, and also things you want me to talk about by myself in upcoming episodes. And yeah, if you have any more questions about Crufts or anything, please do feel free to DM me. I am more than happy to have conversations with you guys about Crufts if you want. If it's your first time at Crufts, feel free to message me, even if it isn't your first time and you just want to chat. My DMs are always open. Speaking of DMs, please do give me a follow on social media at Pause in Pursuit on all of the things, literally all of the platforms. Or Summer Clark on things like Facebook. But yeah, I'm on everything, especially Instagram. I'm on stories pretty much every day, updating you guys on what's occurring in my world and Ari's world, etc. But yeah, I will stop rambling now and I will let you guys go. Have a great week, guys, and I will see you over on socials, and I will speak to you next Wednesday. Oh, and I nearly forgot to remind you guys, I do offer online coaching, so one-to-one online coaching for you and your dog to really elevate your agility journey and reach those goals during 2025, and also help you set goals if you don't really know where you're headed in your agility journey. I would love to help you out. There is an inquiry form in the description of this podcast episode. It commits you to absolutely nothing. We can just have a chat and see if my services are right for you, but I would love to help you guys, and my current online students are absolutely smashing it, and I'm getting so much positive feedback and so many improvements in handlers and their dogs that have enrolled onto my coaching. So yeah, happy days. I really do love my job and would love to work with more of you. So yeah, let's have a chat. But without further ado, I'll let you go and stop hassling you now. I will speak to you next Wednesday. Bye, guys.